The hedge funds are buying everything in your neighborhood. And the scary thing is, people have no idea, and it's only gonna get worse. If you don't believe me, let me tell you the story about this house flip, which we are selling to a hedge fund. So a realtor friend of mine brought me this house and another one as part of a package deal. As part of the deal, I ended up paying $250,000 for this house. Now at the time when I bought it in February, I figured it was probably worth $320,000 fixed up. It already had a tenant and everything in the house was dated. But unlike most of the properties we get, I didn't plan to flip this. In fact, I wanted to keep it as a rental. You see, I wanted to keep this as a rental for many reasons. One, it's in a really nice part of Henderson. And two, it's a newer home. This was built in 2003. So for my rental portfolio, I really want to focus on homes in nice areas that are newer. In the long run, I feel like those are gonna be a better value. I think they're gonna appreciate more, you're gonna get a better tenant, you're gonna get higher rents, and you're gonna have less maintenance as the landlord since the home is newer. Now remember what I just said because this is gonna be really important later in the video. So I was really excited about adding the property to my rental portfolio and we ended up buying it and getting to work. The tenant's lease had expired, so we were able to get them out and get it fixed up into what you see today. The renovation on this home ended up costing me about $35,000. Now remember, I paid $250,000 for this, so I was all in around $285,000 plus all of our closing costs and money costs. I might have made $15,000, potentially $20,000 flipping it. And for me, I'd rather keep this as a rental in the long haul than make that flip profit today. But something actually happened during this time. It took us a few months to get the tenant out initially, and then it took us another couple of months to get the project fixed up. And so by the time we went on the market, things had exploded. Homes in this area were now selling for $350,000 or $360,000. And so if I went to sell it, our profit was gonna be really good, potentially over $40,000. But I also knew that this house was a lot nicer than those comps, so we could list it even higher and potentially make a huge profit. So we listed for $390,000, which was way above comps. And my concern was if I get an end buyer who's gonna live here, the house probably isn't gonna appraise. Well, let me tell you, I was dead wrong. I had misjudged who the end buyer was actually gonna be. By the time that we listed this home, we had multiple offers, many of which were cash. We had a cash buyer at $382,000, and eventually we got a cash buyer at $390,000, right what we were asking. Now in my mind, I'm thinking, why would a cash buyer pay so much for this house? Doesn't make sense. They're paying way over market value, and it's not like it's one guy who just really wants this area. There are multiple cash buyers doing this. Well, it turns out the hedge funds really like this style of property. I mentioned earlier that the reason I wanted to keep this as a rental is because it was in a good area and it's newer. Apparently, I think just like the hedge funds because they want the same thing. They don't want the older, cheaper homes that are in rougher areas. They know that they're gonna get a worse tenant and they know they're gonna have more maintenance long-term because the home is older. And so by picking out these properties and putting them in their portfolio, they know that in the long run, they're gonna make a lot of money even if they're overpaying today. And this isn't surprising because I've been selling to hedge funds for many years. But the thing is, most of the time when I do that, it's off market. They're typically not buying my fixed up, renovated house after I've listed it for top dollar. Most of the times that we've sold to hedge funds, we've sold it the moment that we bought it, or maybe we've wholesaled it to them, and then they end up doing the work and adding some value to it that way. So it's really weird to see that they are going on the market and paying top dollar for properties that are currently listed. Now you might be thinking, why would they do that? What's their end game? How are they gonna make money? Well, to answer that question, I've got another story for you. Back in 2010 when I was a realtor, going to the foreclosure auctions was a really big thing. And I was one who never really did it because I didn't have cash and I didn't understand how it worked. Well, people were buying a ton of properties back then and making a lot of money. Well, around 2012, 2013, the hedge funds started going to those auctions and buying all the houses. And the local investors got really mad because they were making all this money and then all the hedge funds came in and started bidding way more than them. They were paying market value for these properties and the local investors were kind of left to dry. And I remember hearing them talk about how dumb the hedge funds were and that they were going to go bankrupt and lose all their money because they were overpaying for homes. And guess what happened? The hedge funds were a lot smarter than the local investor. They knew that prices were so low that even paying market value or above was a good deal in the long run. And they were willing to bet on that and buy as much volume as humanly possible. In order to buy volume, they had to go to these auctions and pay top dollar to do it. And they ended up sitting on these homes for years and watched them double and triple in value. Now in hindsight, the hedge funds look really smart today. And if you want to read more about it, you can Google Blackstone and what they did in Las Vegas. It's crazy how much money they made. But the hedge funds aren't the only people buying these homes. There are also iBuyers. You may have heard of big companies like Zillow, Opendoor, and OfferPad who are willing to buy your house right now as is. You can go on one of their websites and put your address, and they'll make you a preliminary offer right there. Now understand, that offer is going to change once they finally see your house. And like the hedge funds I've been talking about, they're only looking for a very specific style of home. They don't want complete fixer-upper type homes. They want things they could turn really quickly with some paint and carpet. They're also not willing to buy in certain areas or certain ages or certain price points. They don't want to buy $1 million plus homes. But their exit strategy is a little bit different than the hedge funds I'm talking about who want to buy the homes as rentals. These iBuyers are purchasing the homes in order to flip. And here are some quick numbers so you get an idea of how big this really is. Opendoor is the biggest iBuyer right now. And in the second quarter of 2021, they purchased 8,500 homes. And with those 8,500 homes, they generated $1.2 billion in revenue. But revenue is misleading because that does not equal profit. They actually lost $144 million in the second quarter. But ironically, it was better than the $200 billion they expected to lose. So I guess congrats for them. Zillow is the second biggest iBuyer. Traditionally, they've made the majority of their money from selling agent leads and ads. But they recently added buying homes into their business model, which is generating the most revenue. In Q2, they did $777 million in revenue from house flipping. But once again, that's very misleading. They actually lost $59 million doing this. The last company is OfferPad, who just went public on September 1st. They acquired a little over 2,000 homes in the second quarter, which led to a revenue of $378 million. And with that, they had a $9 million loss. Now, regardless of how those companies calculated their profit and loss, the reality is they don't really care if they make money on these flips right now. They're all in a battle to buy as many houses as possible and gain market share. My opinion is Opendoor's goal is to become a household name like CarMax. People know they can go trade in their car at any point to CarMax and get a cash offer. And Opendoor sees the same thing with buying homes. If a lot of people know you can go get an offer from them tomorrow, in the long run, they're gonna make a lot of money. So where does that leave us today going forward? These hedge funds are picking markets like Las Vegas and Phoenix that they really like. And they're raising a ton of capital and getting cheap financing to be able to go purchase as many homes that fit their buy box. And as I mentioned, they want newer homes in good areas. Now, as a house flipper, I'm okay with this. I'm gonna make over $70,000 to $80,000 on this home because they're willing to overpay. But if you're a middle class or entry-level retail buyer who wants to buy a newer home in a nice area, you're gonna have some stiff competition that I don't see going away anytime soon. So my advice is figure out how to get on the investing side and sell to these guys. If you wanna learn more how to do that, you can go check out futureflipper.com and join one of my coaching programs. My students and I have made millions this year selling directly to these guys, and it's a great strategy as an investor. But anyways, that's what's been happening in the real estate market. Most people will have no idea about it, but now you do. So what are you gonna do with the information?